Okay. I've asked you about your microphones. One of the things I wanted to say is that there is no doubt that we all want to raise very happy, healthy children. We want them to flourish, don't we? Spiritually, emotionally, intellectually, and socially. And there is much that we can do to support our children to achieve these goals. And that is the focus of the seminar this afternoon, to help us learn how to manage our children's emotional well-being. And I think, as I said in my prayer, this is even more critical during these troubled times of the pandemic. And it appears no continent has escaped the challenges that has been brought about by this. We all have different levels of tolerance and resilience, and children and young people look to us, particularly at this time, for support. We're hearing more and more about the prevalence of the breakdown in our children's mental health. For example, here in the UK, I know of one school where there has been no less than 5 attempted suicides over the period of one term. Since the lockdown. And that has ranged from what we call in the UK year 8, which is 12, 13, through to 6th form, which is 17, 18. So we were talking about children, very young teenagers and young adults. And we know that both children and adults in our church are not immune from the pressures and the struggles. And we sometimes don't know where to go for help. So that's even more important as to why we needed to put on the seminar this afternoon. We hear also, I did a survey recently of a number of head teachers from Adventist schools here in the UK, and they talked to me about having to provide additional support for children when they return to school, in supporting them how to re-socialize with their peers, because they had been, they'd almost forgotten how to do this effectively. There were lots of emotions to manage. And this is why, again, we thought this particular program was critical. So that leaves me now to introduce you to our speaker. I have pleasure in introducing Karen Holford, who is the Director for Family Ministries at the Trans-European Division of the Seventh-day Adventist Church here in Europe. Now, Karen first trained as an occupational therapist, and she worked in rehabilitation with people who had brain injuries and memory problems. She completed her MA in educational and developmental psychology at Andrews University in the US. Karen is also has an MSc in systemic psychotherapy. And to those of us lay people, that's family therapy. And she has worked as a family therapist for a number of charities in Scotland. Karen is married to Pastor Bernie Holford, who is well known to us here in the UK and well-loved and renowned pastor. And in fact, they both studied together at Andrews University. Karen is the author of over 20 books, including the well-renowned 52 Ways to Parent Happy Children. I'm sure she'll be telling you a bit more about that later. So without further ado, Karen, the floor is yours. We look forward to your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Judy. It's lovely to be with you all again. And it's lovely that you're willing to give up your time this afternoon to come and learn how to help children balance their emotions. I can tell you that when I had to research this topic for a project that I did, I learned things that helped me balance my emotions. And I am now much more able to balance my emotions and my stress than I ever was before I learned how to do this. And the wonderful thing is that the ways we can balance our emotions are actually all really simple. Nothing is rocket science. Everything is actually free and open to us to use for ourselves and share with our children wherever we are. And that's a wonderful gift that we have. Thinking at the beginning, I'm thinking about Paul. So Paul, the Apostle Paul, was in jail when he wrote the book, The Letter to the Philippians. He was actually on death row awaiting execution. So he was basically locked down. His life was uncertain. He did not know from one day to the next, I guess, whether he would be fed to the lions or how his life might end there in Rome. And yet his letter to his friends in Philippi is full of amazing joy. So here he is in this really difficult situation, and yet he's hanging on to his joy. How is he doing that? Here are some of the things he writes. Rejoice in the Lord always. And again, I say rejoice. Don't be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition, present your request to God. The peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and minds in Christ Jesus. And if there is anything excellent or praiseworthy, think about these things. These are just a few of the things he writes in the 4th chapter of Philippians, which actually help us to balance our emotions, have a positive view on life, and are being supported by modern science and research into well-being. We need to understand what emotions are. Emotions are invitations to connect with others. Romans says, be happy with those who are happy, be sad with those who are sad. Match your emotion to the person so you feel connected. They don't feel alone in whatever they are feeling. Emotions are also our natural responses to living in a world that has chaos and pain, as well as beauty, love, and joy and wonder. So we have an amazing mix of things that we experience in this world. Emotions are also information signals from our body to help us respond appropriately to our experiences. And I've been greatly helped by the book Positivity, which was written by Barbara Fredrickson. She's a psychologist in America who wanted to study healthy psychology because so much had focused on what went wrong, and she wanted to find out what could go well and how the brain could flourish. I just want to put a little reminder on there. We're getting some noise, and make sure your microphone is on mute so that we can all hear clearly, and that would be much appreciated. So just double check you're on mute if you're listening to me right now. Thank you. So let's think about negative and positive emotions, because I will be talking about those. And what you need to understand is that negative emotions are not bad. They are just feelings that drain us. They drain the energy out of our lives. Positive emotions are those that fill us up and help us to flourish. So they top up our cup, and negative emotions will drain our cup. Our emotions in themselves are not good or evil. They are physiological responses to what is happening around us, so that we can choose what to do to stay safe, to connect, and to seek help, whatever it is we need. So although we will experience emotions in response to what is happening around us, once that's happened, we then have some choices how we will respond to that to help us rebalance and help our children rebalance. So feelings are natural responses, and Jesus experienced negative emotions and positive emotions. They all happened in his life. We see him crying, we see him getting angry, we see him being joyful, we see him wanting appreciating appreciation, all sorts of different things that let us know some insights into his emotions. And it's very important to never dismiss anyone's feelings or shame them for having negative feelings, because when we add shame to their negative feelings, we will actually make them feel worse. So it's good not to say, don't cry, big boys don't cry. We need to comfort boys who cry, all children who cry. They need to have comfort to help them calm down again. So emotional balance. Why is emotional balance important? That's what we're talking about, because actually we can't be all happy or all the time. We live in a world where there's negative and positive emotions. And the important thing is to get them in a healthy state of balance so we can flourish. And we now understand that healthy emotions, they're not just like the jam on the bread or the icing on the cake. They're not just a bonus. They are actually the important stuff of life. It's what God intended us to experience. Jesus said, I come that you might have life and have it more abundantly. And the more positive emotions we have, the more abundant is our life. This is the important part of life. It's not just a bonus if they're there. we should weave them through everything in our life. Positive emotions are important because they help to broaden our minds, help us to think better, think more widely, understand things. They help us to recover from stress, which is really important right now and at all times, but especially now. They help us to build resilience, and they strengthen us to face the challenges around us. And when we are filled with positive emotions, it helps us to be loving and lovable people. And we help those around us to experience our positive emotions. We can share them with them, and they're blessed as well. Most people have a ratio of 2 to 1 positive to negative emotions. And when I first heard this, I thought, wow, that's amazing. If we feel happy twice as much as we feel sad, or positive emotions twice as much as negative, that's bound to be good. But actually, the research shows that we have much better emotional health when the ratio is at least 3 to 1. So we need to have 3 times positive emotions to negative emotions. And if you go to the website positivityratio.com, you can actually assess your emotional balance. It lists the main emotions that I will talk about today, and it will say how much of this emotion did you experience in the last day. And it will kind of help you work out what your emotional balance is. But you don't want to get too high. You don't want to get like 5 to 1, 6 to 1, 7 to 1. If you get too high, then you're really out of touch with reality. And your level of positivity can be so distant from everybody else that you could actually be quite annoying. So even the Bible says, don't, if someone's sad, like be sad with them. Don't just try and jolly them along. You need to be sad with them. So we need to have some empathy and understanding about our balance and be sensitive about it. And too much is not what we're aiming for. We're aiming for a healthy balance. So let's think of some of the negative emotions that happen in our lives, and let's think about what we can do about them. So here are the 10 most common negative emotions. Of course, there are many more, but these are the key ones, and many of the other words for emotions will fit under some of these in some way. They're different forms of sadness, different forms of anger and frustration and fear and things. And I'm going to talk about each emotion just very quickly. And on the screen, you'll see some little ways you could help someone who might be having that emotion, help your child with that emotion. So some negative emotions are a normal, healthy response to a sad or challenging situation. Like if someone dies, if there is a loss, even if you move house and you move away from your friends, there's going to be a sadness. That's a normal response to loss. And we need to feel that sadness. We shouldn't just push it away. There's healthiness in expressing that sadness and having it accompanied by others. Other negative emotions can drag us down into despair, and we can feel hopeless or too sad. So we need to understand about where these feelings are coming from. So anger, I guess you've all experienced anger, and children get angry from time to time, quite often because they can't make themselves understood, or they want something that we are not going to give them. And it's important that we don't give in to that. But quite often anger comes about because we're trying to communicate something and we don't have the words. And so it's helpful to listen calmly to someone who's angry, show that you understand them and that you want to help them. And if there's a conflict, look for win-win solutions. But listening calmly, staying calm in the presence of anger helps the other person to calm down. And particularly when we listen to them and share back what they say so they feel understood. Contempt is feeling very disrespectful towards someone or something, having a bitter sense of superiority. And when we feel superior to others, it's actually very unhealthy for us. So if children start to feel contemptuous or they look down on other children and want to tease them and bully them, we need to encourage them to be compassionate, to show respect, to be kind, and to look for strengths in others and not look down on them. Then there's disgust, a feeling of being revolted by something or someone that sounds, feels, looks, tastes, or smells horrible. And that's a negative emotion, but it helps us to stay away from potential toxins and dangers. So that's protective. So you want to help the child distance themselves from whatever's disgusting that they don't like, and maybe do something that smells nice or looks nice in response instead. Then there's embarrassment, feeling ashamed when something you did wrongly or badly is made public, and you think, oh no, everyone just saw me do that, and now they think I'm terrible. And when that happens to your child, we need to listen to them, comfort them, support them. Don't add to their shame. Talk about the times when they did well, and help them to remember that this isn't the big picture. This shame today, help them to see it in the context of bigger things in their life. That's quite hard for children, but the more we tell them about the times they did well, it helps them to regain their sense of self-worth again. Then there is fear, feeling anxiety about a real, possible, or probable situation that you feel unable to handle well. For example, for children, it might be they're going to have to stand on a stage and say some words in front of people. They can be frightened of that. They can be frightened of a dog. I was frightened of going underwater because I discovered I had a bad experience on a beach one time when a huge wave came and swept me away from my dad, and he had to come and grab my hand when I was really tiny. So then after that, I never liked to have water on my face, and I didn't realize why I struggled with that. Many children have fears based on experiences they had before they were verbal, and the memory lives on in their body. And when they experience that again, they start to panic, and they need to understand what happened. What was the story they had before they were verbal? What memories do their parents have? They can fill in the story and help them to see where that fear and panic comes from. Help them to feel safe. Perfect love casts out fear. Don't add to their fear when they're afraid. Don't force them into situations when they're not ready. That's usually not very helpful. So frustration is when it takes longer to reach our goals than we expect, or someone's critical of us and we're trying to do our best. And we need to help our children calm down, make a clear plan to work through what they need to, support them if they need support. So if their computer is breaking down or not working well, do what you can to support them to lower that frustration. And maybe the child feels guilty, remorseful, sad. They feel, oh no, I've done something wrong and I've hurt someone, I've broken something, or I've upset someone and I never meant to. So help children to put things right quickly so they start to feel good again, especially on the same day where possible. That's really important. Because if they sleep on it, it can actually be harder for them to deal with. Help them to apologize, to do something kind for the other person, to repair what was broken. And then there's sadness. And when children are sad, they need our comfort. When we comfort them, we help soothe their brains. We help them to develop empathy for others. And that's really important. So children who are not comforted well in the first 3 years of their life, it affects their brains, and it makes it harder for them to be empathic for others and care for others' sadness. So don't shame, ignore, or make them feel sadder. They just need to be comforted and supported through their sadness. Shame is feeling inadequate or guilty, quite often because other people have made them feel that way. They've teased them, bullied them, and done things to them that made them feel bad. And we need to cherish and honor our children. Don't shame them, but bless them, lift them up. Remind them of their worth in God's eyes and yours. So always lift your children up, because the happier children are, the better they will behave. So that the good behavior comes out from the joy and love and peace inside their heart. Stress is when we feel we're being asked to do more than we can manage. And if we don't get everything done, people are going to think that we're not very good. And we start to stress about that. And that can happen to children and teenagers too. So help them to organize their workload, listen to what they're stressed about school, about studies, about friends, whatever it is. The more we listen to their stories, the more we can understand, support, comfort, and help them to reduce their stress. And if you know people are going through a very stressful time, and children especially, try not to add to their load by giving them more things to do. Show grace by saying, I'll do your chores for you, so you can do something to reduce your stress. So take care of them. It's really important. But the joyful thing is that there's lots of healthy, happy emotions we can experience too. What are the top 10 positive emotions? The ones that help us to flourish. Well, these are these emotions: fun, gratitude, inspiration, joy, serenity, hope, interest, and I'll talk more about that later, feeling valued and valuable, experiencing awe and wonder, and love. These are the positive emotions, and we're going to talk about those now. These are the nice ones. And as I talk about them, I want you to think about the little activities that I'm putting into each section. So for every positive emotion, I'll talk a little bit about it, and then I'll have some ideas, things you can do with your kids. If you have a pen and paper, you can even write some of the things down. You can even pop some of the ideas into the chat. So amusement and laughter is really good. And we know how healing it is to laugh. And the people have gained healing through watching lots of funny films and reading funny books and laughing together. It's a really good, positive way to relax. And the Bible tells us a cheerful heart is good medicine. So they knew even back then that it was very powerful to be happy and funny. So what can you do? Well, do funny things with your kids. Tell them funny stories, funny things that happened to you when you were children or today in your work. If you find something funny that they will appreciate, share a funny animal video together. Look at funny pictures and jokes, clean ones on your phone or on the internet. Tell each other what makes you laugh the most. And do some crazy things at home. And some families will just have funny hour, and they'll maybe wear clothes back to front or dress up as different characters, or have a meal and eat dessert first. Just do something unexpected and funny with your kids. Surprise them with something funny, with puppets and whatever it is, because that can really help them to have moments of laughter and joy and giggle and tickle. In my family, we used to have tickle fights quite a lot, and that would be a lot of close connection and laughter that would be very special in our family, as long as it's not too rough or too long. So find ways to laugh together. That's so important. And I wonder what makes you laugh. And I wonder what the funniest thing was that you heard or saw in the last week that you've shared with someone, so you could have a giggle together. Do that with your kids. I particularly love this one, this awe and wonder. And awe and wonder is just having this wow experience about something beautiful in nature or in another person. And in the Bible, David says, "How many are your works, Lord? In wisdom, you made them all. The earth is full of your creatures." And the interesting thing is, when we are filled with wonder, we cannot experience anxiety at the same time. So when we go wow about something, we have this really feel good feeling because it pushes out the anxiety. You can't have them both. And I think it's kind of why Jesus said, don't worry, just look at the birds, how God takes care of them. Look at the flowers, how God takes care of them. He was taking people's attention off their worries onto wonder about birds, onto wonder about flowers, knowing that when they did that, their worries and anxieties would reduce. And also they could learn from nature how God takes care of them. So let's have these moments of wonder with our children. Too often we rush past amazing things. So let's bring the attention of our children to the wonders of nature around them. The sky, the budding trees now, the little flowers, the birds in the sky, listen to their songs. Go and look at the stars together in the summer, and you can lie on a blanket with some nice hot chocolate and watch the stars come out. Make bark rubbings of trees. So put paper over the tree and then use a wax crayon and get the pattern. So you do things to help children pay attention to the shape of the leaf, the way the bark is different on different trees, the detail of the flowers, looking at the animals. I was reading recently, when people go to a zoo, you think they would go there for moments of wonder, but actually they mostly talk about their everyday lives. They don't pay even very much attention to the animals. I think the lion was probably got the most, and it wasn't really that much time, maybe a minute or something. People spent only 8 seconds watching snakes. So I can kind of get the 8 seconds watching snakes. I think that's quite a lot for me. I think I might have limited that to 2, but they're still objects of wonder, and we need to slow down, look at things, help our children look at bees, how they collect the pollen and things, and the butterflies, how they fly. And these give moments of real joy to the children. Help them to see these wonders, even look at their hand, their own body, the amazing things that it can do. Sometimes when I would be coming home from work on the bus and I'd had a stressful day, I would just look out the window and find something to be filled with awe about. Often it would be the sky. The sky is constantly changing watercolor painted by God. And it's different many times when you look at it. Or I would look at a tree or just a flower or a bird and just focus on that for a little while. And I would soon find my stresses would just kind of flow away. And by the time I got to my stop a few minutes later, I would be in a very different place from when I left work. So Awe and Wonder is really good for us. Engage in that with your children. If you can, every day, find something, say, hey, look at this, let's really watch this. Or even watch a National Geographic video about something, nature, an animal or something, because that will fill them with wonder and take them away from their stress. Gratitude is really important. When we show gratitude, again, we don't feel the anxiety as much. And so helping our children to be thankful for what they have, the things around them, can be very, very powerful. So we would do something with our kids like this. We would be in the car or we'd be at home and we would name something we were thankful for, beginning with each letter of the alphabet, and try and get something together as a family for every letter of the alphabet or every letter of their name. And this pushes them to think a bit harder about what they're thankful for. Or walk around your house and be thankful for so many things in your house that you've never been thankful for or never said thank you to God for. Or go for a walk and just be continually thanking God for one thing after the other. For the ambulance that's taking someone to the hospital, for the family you see walking down the road together, for the flower, for the bird that you can hear, for the houses that people actually have homes to live in. So there is so much to be thankful for. And we need to open our eyes for the millions of things that we can be thankful for. I have a friend who's a psychologist, and they said you should think of 30 things to be thankful for before you get out of bed in the morning. Can you imagine? Some of us might be late for work. But if you lie there in the morning and when you wake up, you start to think of things you're thankful for, it resets your heart in a positive attitude. When we're thankful for things, we don't notice what we don't have or what we're struggling with. We notice more about what we do have and the gifts they give to our life. Start a family gratitude diary. We did this in our family, and every day we'd write in there 3 things that we were thankful for every single day. And on one day when it seemed like everything had gone wrong, and we sat there and we thought, what on earth can we be thankful for today? We had to try a bit harder. You know, that day we completely ran out of space in the end of things to thank God for, because we were pushed to be more creative and notice things we hadn't noticed before. Brother David Steindl-Rast, he has a whole website called gratefulness.org, and he has a lovely video. If you just Google for it, you can find it, A Good Day. And he describes so many things around us we can be grateful for that make every day a good day. Hope is vital. It's the belief that things can and will change and improve. And it feels like that's kind of getting here right now in this pandemic and lockdown. Things are beginning to open up, and we can look for the things that we can be hopeful for. And we were just talking online before about going to the Olympic Park in Stratford and all the things that are there to go and visit when we can get out again. Those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. Hope actually strengthens us for the now and gives us energy to get through the challenging things. So when we have something to look forward to, it helps us ride the ups and downs of life. What are some of the things that give you and your children hope when life is challenging? What do you like to look forward to? What is everyone looking forward to right now? Do you know? What would happen if you sat down together and wrote down all the things you were looking forward to? I'm sure the list is quite long right now, because there are so many things we haven't had for so long that we've almost forgotten what there is to look forward to. But we always need something to look forward to in the near future as well as the more distant future. And it's even every day. What's your special thing you can do every day that you can look forward to? So in our home, we have a moment at the end of the day, my husband and I, and I'm sharing a secret here, but we have what we call the chocolate moment. And it's about 9:30 at night. And one of us will say, I think it's time for a chocolate moment. And we sit down together and we share like one square of really nice chocolate together. And that's our chocolate moment. And it's a little treat at the end of the day that we do when we've done lots of work. So it's good to have something to look forward to every day, every week, every month, and in the more distant future too. It just helps us to keep going because we have something to look forward to. So make sure that your child always has something to look forward to. Help them to work with you, to put things on the calendar that they're looking forward to, and make them happen. Don't disappoint them. Younger children need shorter time spans because they can't wait very long for things. You know, as soon as they know it's their birthday in a month's time, they'll ask you every day if it's their birthday. And so you need to make sure that you balance out what you tell them about what to look forward to. And plan fun times, celebrations, and treats. And look out for those around you who are discouraged and lonely. Find ways to nurture their hope. Invite them to things that you're doing so that they can look forward to something as well. Inspiration is really important for us all. Being inspired by God, spiritual insights, seeing what other people can do who do amazing things, recognizing excellence in others. This is really uplifting. When we read inspiring autobiographies, we can be encouraged to develop our own character, to persist through the big challenges. Whatever is true, noble, right, pure, lovely, admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about these things. When I grew up, this was the school motto in my school, and this verse was put above the stage on the hall where we had our worship times every morning. And I read this and memorized it, and I found it's a really helpful verse. It tells us, think about the good things. Yes, there's all sorts of stuff out there, but there's so much good too. Read the good news stories rather than filling your mind with stories about the pandemic and the vaccine and all the things that are going wrong. Look for the stories of people doing kind and amazing things in the middle of all of this chaos. And that can inspire you and lift up your heart. So think of someone in the Bible or in history or in the world today who inspires you. Help your children to find good heroes that inspire them, and to read about them and to learn about them, talk about them together, explore their character in family worship, whatever you do. Describe who they are, how they have inspired you, and share that in your family. Tell who has inspired you. Maybe it was a family member, maybe it was a friend, a teacher, maybe it was a famous person. How have you been inspired, and who or what would inspire your child? Now, interest is an interesting one. If you have read the book Flow, I guess that sums up this idea of interest. It's having something that is so interesting to us that we completely get absorbed by it, by a hobby, by learning something new, learning a language, learning to play a musical instrument, running, whatever it is. When we have hobbies, they help us to have really positive moments of just being lost in something of joy and something that's new, something that might challenge us a little bit. And in the Bible, the Proverbs 31 lady, she had so many interests when you look and see all the things that she was doing. It's so healthy for us to have these. So what are the favorite hobbies of each person in your family? What are your children's hobbies? How can you nurture those hobbies? Things that are off screen, things that are creative, musical, things that they can learn. What are they interested in? We need to help them experience all sorts of things so they can discover what really sparks their joy and sparks their interest and pursue it, so that they have these positive hobbies in their life. And think of some of the positive emotions that you experience when you do your own hobbies. They give you joy, they make you feel peaceful, they absorb all your interest. You can share them with people that you love and have great times experiencing those things together. So it's really important that you have positive hobbies and that your children have hobbies. Help them to discover what they enjoy and support them in that. When our children were growing up, one of them got very interested in birds. And one day my husband and him got up really early in the morning and they went on a special walk. He was the only child, and it was a dawn chorus walk in the woods. And they went on that walk to listen to all the different birds. And my son was just transfixed. And we'd get binoculars and we'd go to the bird sanctuary and look at the birds. And we learnt too, while we were helping him experience and learn about birds, we learnt things that we never knew before. And also in our church, we have Pathfinder clubs and adventurers. And the great thing about them is they are teaching children all the time things that can become their interests, their hobbies for life. They're developing all kinds of skills. And this is vital because they have like a whole banquet of ideas to draw from. Joy is a feeling of happy delight and freedom. It's different to laughter. It doesn't have to be funny. You can have joy without something being amusing. And it's just that, wow, that joyful experience, like being on top of a mountain and looking at the view, or swimming in the water when you love to swim, whatever it is. What gives you that joy? And what gives your children joy? This little girl obviously has a great hobby, painting, and she's just really joyful, isn't she? She's got big smile on her face. Although I can say when my daughter did that once, the paint started to dry on her skin and she didn't look quite so happy after a few moments, and we had to shower her off quickly. But for this moment, she is experiencing wonderful, happy delight and freedom. And it's good for us to be joyful and to rejoice in all sorts of things. Rejoice in the Lord and rejoice in all that he is doing. And the goodness, every good thing comes from God, and we can thank him for them joyfully. He gives us these things to share joy with us. He wants us to be happy. I wonder what was your child's happiest moment in the past week, and what made it so happy? And what do you do that brings joy to your child? You know, in the book that Judy was showing earlier, there's 52 ways to parent happy children that I wrote. At the back, there's like 75 ways to share joy with your children very quickly. And so that there's all these creative ideas for bringing them joy. What can you do every day to bring joy to your child, to delight their heart, and to just have fun times together? It doesn't even have to cost anything. What gives them most joy is being with you and sitting down, maybe reading a book with you, having your attention, doing things with you when you are just joyfully with them and not worried about that they might make a mess or they might do this. But it's good to know what your happiest moments are. And we used to do this in our family. We'd share our happiest moment of the day with each other at the meal table. What was the greatest thing that happened today? What was your happiest moment? And as we shared them together, people were really happy, and the joy was doubled. And then we would also share, what's your sadness? And then we would comfort each other about the sadness in the day as well. And that helped us to stay like in touch with our kids, what was going on in their life, what was bringing them joy, what was bothering them. And we could connect together about the joys and the sadnesses. And that's a really important way to stay in touch and to keep the balance and to be aware of what our children are going through. It's really important that we feel that what we do is valuable and valued. And sometimes we can be a bit worried about pride. We don't want to develop our children's pride, but they need to know from us when they have done something well. And feeling that what they do is valued and that they are valued. Like this little girl, she's made a simple card for her dad, and he's being happy with it. And she's so delighted to give it to him. And sharing that joy together, that helps her to feel good, that she could make something that made daddy happy is very precious to her. And whatever we do, we can work at it with all our heart, working for the Lord and not for men, knowing that even if no one else sees, God sees what we do, and he rejoices over us for singing. So the important thing is, as parents, to reward effort rather than achievement. So when we say, we say things like, you worked really hard at that. You worked so hard at getting that writing neat. You've spent such a long time practicing your violin today. That's really good. So reinforce the effort they're putting into something. Don't say, oh, you've done that. That's amazing. That's wonderful. That's perfect. Because then they don't have to try anymore. They've reached enough to say, well, I've done that. And it doesn't encourage their achievement. So we can appreciate what they've made and thank them for the card, but say, really reward them and tell them they've done well by working hard. They need to know that that's important. They need to know that what they do is valued. They need to know that when they do the washing up, we'll say thank you to them, because that is so reinforcing. Thanking them is much more reinforcing than nagging them to do it. Because when we say, thank you, I really appreciate that, that made my day, that you did the washing up and worked so hard at it, then they want to do that again. And they might have made a mistake here or there in the washing up. You don't have to point it out. They will learn, they will do better next time. And just clean it up and put it away quietly. And because if we bring attention to that in a negative way, they can feel like giving up and thinking, well, I'm not going to help again because, if I don't help, then I can't be told off for making a mistake. Show that you value and appreciate all that they do for you. So they need to know that they are valued, that they are precious, that they bring us joy. Serenity is that feeling of peaceful stillness, calm and contentment that we love to have, and we often don't have very much of it. And children need to have this space where they can be quiet and peaceful and pray. They need quiet time in their life, not just rushing around, filling every moment with stuff. They need to have times where they can just be still, just sit and watch things, just lie on the grass, not have to do anything. And sometimes when I'm stressed or my children around me are stressed, we do what we call bubble breathing. I discovered this when I was a stressed out mum, and I went into the garden to just take some fresh air and clear my head so I could go back and be a nice mum. And I found the children's bubbles and I started blowing the bubbles. And I realized that blowing bubbles really helped me to calm down. And later on, I learned this is a natural way our bodies calm us. When we take a deep breath, and try this now, I want you, wherever you are, to take a deep breath, really big deep breath, and then imagine you are blowing bubbles. Really slowly blow out. Imagine you're trying to blow a really big bubble without it popping. And when you do that 2 or 3 times, you are calmed down. So if you have a child that's a bit fraught, a bit stressed, try and give them some bubbles that they have to breathe themselves, not with any machinery or anything, any toys. And just breathing bubbles, blowing bubbles can help them calm down. Giving them a drink of cool water. When they sip water, something cold, slowly, that again helps to reset their breathing, calm them down. Give them lavender to smell, put cream in their hands, listen to some soothing music, focus on a Bible verse. All those things can help them to calm. What helps me to calm is to say, be still and know that I am God. And that's my calming Bible verse when I'm getting a bit stressed. Be still and know that I am God. And I wonder what yours is, and whether you can help your children to find a verse too that they can use to calm themselves down. And love. Love is a blend of all these wonderful emotions within a warm, close, safe, and caring relationship. And that's why I say do these things with your children, because that's how they experience love with you, this positive time with you, these memories in nature, these memories of laughter and memories of peace, whatever they're doing. So make sure that love is blended into all these different things, and know what helps your child to feel especially loved. Maybe it's your kind and encouraging positive words that bless them. I'm so glad you're my child. It's great being your mum. Maybe they need some help and they like it when you come alongside and they're not doing things on their own, but you're giving them a bit of help when they're struggling. Maybe it's a thoughtful gift every now and then, and it doesn't have to be a purchased gift. You can make funny things and do things or at home without having to spend money. They especially like your focused attention, your eye contact. They especially need to see that your face lights up when you see them. That really helps to bring them joy. Even if you're feeling heavy inside, try smiling, let your eyes brighten up when you see them. And that is really reassuring for your children. And give them physical affection and hugs. It's very important to be kind. Being kind to others is good for our well-being. And a psychologist told me that being kind to others is actually better for many kinds of depression than counseling or medication. When we start to look out of ourselves, find others who need help and do things to help them, then that helps us to feel happy too. So help your children to develop a plan of kindness, to do secret acts of kindness. In our family, we had little paper hearts that said kindness was here, and the children would do things in the home and then leave a little heart behind to say, we've been kind just here, so that we would notice. And that was a lovely game we played in our family for free. So what happens is that what we choose to think about affects our emotions and our behavior, and that again affects our thoughts, and our thoughts affect our behavior and our emotions. They're all linked together. But by choosing what we think about and then what we can feel, we can affect all sorts of parts of how we're thinking, our anxiety, our behavior, and we can start to experience more flourishing. So we can choose, we can focus on the dark and gloomy aspects of life, or do what Paul says and look at the beautiful things, because that gloomy bit was part of that big tree. And if we take a step back, we can see all the joy and beauty and light around us. There's, two mothers there with a child in the sunshine, there's flowers, it's very peaceful, there's a little home in the background, and it's really a calming picture. And we often are so close up to the stress, we don't take a step back and notice the beauty and light and joy all around us. The NHS has 5 ways to emotional well-being: connecting with others spiritually, emotionally, and socially, being active, paying attention to the details of nature, that's the wow, the life, beauty, relationships, giving generously, and keep learning and growing. And as I read these, I thought, how amazing. These are all very much integrated into our faith as Adventists. We're encouraged to do all of these different things, and actually they are all really good for our well-being. And I wonder what nurtures your positive emotions. Make a list of them and help your children to make a list of what makes them happy too. We need to be good examples, how we manage our negative emotions and how we stay calm, and to teach our children actually, because we often don't talk about this. So if you had a stressful situation at work and you worked it through and you found a solution, then tell your children about it. Maybe it was the photocopier didn't work and you had a big project, and then you went to speak to a friend and they had their own photocopier in their office and you were able to do the project there. So talk to your children how you manage your anger, your frustration, your stress, so that they can learn from you, because often we don't even talk about these things. Help your children to have more words for their emotions. The more they have, the more they can talk about how they're feeling, and the less likely they are to act out. They can be helped to have more positive behavior. We need to listen to our children, reflect back what they say, really show we're really listening. So you're saying that this and this happened at school, and then the teacher said this, and they will say yes, and tell me more, and they will tell you more. And then think about what they might be feeling and say, oh, that sounds like that's quite stressful, or that's quite sad. And when they realize you can get their feelings, that's very powerful. Help them to find their own solutions. Don't just jump in there and fix things for them. Ask questions. I wonder what would happen if we did this, or if you did this. Let's look and see what other people do when they had this problem. Let's find out and help the child discover how to solve their own problems. As we mentioned before, help them to find amazing hobbies, do them together as a family, because that brings you joy, connection, togetherness, and takes them out of their anxieties. Do the kind things, that really helps them. So on my website, the Trans-European Division website, under Family Ministries, there are lots of live kind ideas for ways you can be kind, hundreds of ways to be kind. So we're encouraging that. Get your children to laugh before you teach them something new. When they laugh, it's like their mind opens up like a sponge, and they can take in a lot more information and learn better. And when you laugh, what's happening in your body helps to imprint the memory more strongly so that they can remember it better. Be a good role model, share positive experiences with your children. Choose to let joyfulness and gratitude bubble out of you, and talk about it, share it with others, because they will catch it. As long as you're not overwhelmingly positive in the face of their really difficult discouragement and pain, be sensitive to those around you. Mourn with those who mourn, rejoice with those who rejoice. And at the end of the day, help your child list 3 things that went well and focus on them. And what did you do well as a parent too? We all need to do this when we go to bed. So often we can think of all the things we did wrong, and we forget that, 97% of the time you did really well, but we just remember those 3% of things. But if we think about what went well at the end of each day, help the child to think what they did well, that really helps them to go to bed feeling good about themselves, reducing their anxiety, knowing they're precious, they're valued, that they are making progress, and that you noticed what they did well. And that's really important. And help your child to find a place where they can be quiet and peaceful. Help them to experience their own relationship with God, and maybe find some good children's journaling books, some good children's devotional books that they can work through on their own, a place where they can pray, think happy and healthy thoughts, maybe write it down. Maybe they have a pin board where they put pictures and messages and Bible verses and prayer requests, whatever it is. Help them to find a little space and time when they can be quiet and peaceful, or you can be all quiet and peaceful together. And make happy and healthy choices in your life. Find ways to fill your life with the positive emotions, because once I learned that I could choose to experience them, it really has transformed my life. I used to think that negative emotions just kind of hit me over the head and I had to just kind of deal with them and just go through the pain, the misery, whatever it was. But once I learned that even though those things happen, I can choose to think about something else, choose to be grateful, choose to lose myself in a positive project, choose to have a moment of wonder, then it really helped me to balance my emotions so much better. Now, as a therapist, and I work with people with all sorts of emotions, and in families, we get people to make an emotional pie. That's like a pie chart of all they are feeling inside. And this is really useful thing to do with your kids. Sometimes I get kids to guess parents' emotional pies and parents to guess children's emotional pies. So they just draw a circle and they divide up the pie into what they are feeling. And that can be really helpful, because then we know what's going on inside and it's not just a mystery to us. And they lock themselves in their bedroom, or they get grumpy, or they behave in ways that then we tell them off and they feel even worse. So it's helpful to know actually what's going on inside them. And this was one person's emotional pie, all these different things. And when they feel stressed, say, when are you most likely to feel this? And how do you show it when you're stressed? How can I, as a mum, tell when you are stressed? What are you going to do and say? And when you are stressed, what do you need me to do that will help you? So this helps them identify when they're likely to feel something, how they express it, and what they need other people to help them with. When I did this with one girl, she drew a piece of the pie. She was so insightful. She said, this piece of the pie are all the emotions I don't have the words for yet. And I thought, wow, I wonder how many grown-ups would say that. But she was humble enough to say, these are feelings I have and I don't even have words for them. And then she said to me, this is a pie, isn't it? And I said, yes. And her pie probably looked very much like this pie. It wasn't this pie, but something like this. And so you can see that there's a lot of difficult emotions and a little bit of happy inside. And she said, actually, if I put a lid on this pie, it would show 80% happy and 20% sad. But that was just the lid. And inside, this is what I'm feeling. So this is what I show on the outside. But inside, it's like the other way around. So this is just something simple you can do for yourself or with your children or your teenagers, just to kind of check in with each other about where they're at with their different emotions. So that was a lightning tour, really, in just under an hour of all these things. If you had been with me, what we would have done is gone through the theory of this together with the parents, and then the children would come into the room and there'd be all sorts of fun things around the room to experience each one of those different positive emotions for you to do together. And we can't do that here, but I want you to take 1 or 2 or 3 away from today and try them, because they're simple, and add more to your list. It's helpful to make a list of each of those 10 positive emotions and then think of all the things you can do that bring love or joy or whatever it is into one of those sections. So make a playlist that's peaceful or joyful. What do you do that calms you down? Maybe it's a special hand cream or a perfume. Put that in a basket of calm down ideas and use them with your kids and yourself to help you calm down. So the more ideas you have how to experience the different positive emotions, the more you can put them into your life. We're going to open up for questions in a moment, but just before we do, I want to make sure that you go away at least having a little bit of a laugh. So I hope this video works. So I hope you enjoyed that, and a little excursion into joy and laughter. I really want to try some of those things. I really want that thing that a guy bounced around in, like a big baby bouncer. When I get back out there, that's on my bucket list. So this is my book, 52 Ways to Parent Happy Children, which has a load more ideas in it than we can share here. And so those are just some things. If you would like to learn more, you can go and turn to this book, and it's got lots of ideas, mostly for younger children, I would say, but it's from the ABC or Life Source Books, I think it's called now, the Stamber Press. So I can imagine there's
Karen. We have a number of questions.
Yes, I'm just scrolling through them here.
Yes, I think the first one is an interesting one. I'd like to ask how to engage the child who's depressed. They don't want to do anything as an excuse of the mental health issues. She has lots of support in that matter. Any comments on that, please?
Yes, I think it's really hard to find how to engage them when they're very down. What I would often do is to help them to write a list of 100 things that bring them joy, what brought them joy in the past. And there's all sorts of things. I mean, it's really dependent on the child, and the more I know the child, then the more appropriate the answers I can give. But if they're having a lot of support, it is very hard when you're really down to have someone come along and say, come on, do this. I would tend to do things next to them and see just in parallel near them that might interest them, that they might want to then come and join in with. That's often what I do. And so it's just, don't drag them into something, but just do something interesting next to them and see whether they will engage in it. It's very hard to get over the energy low. It's almost like climbing up over a big mountain to do anything when you feel that down. I kind of know a bit about it because I had chronic fatigue syndrome for about 5 years, and I know how hard it is when people said, come and do this, and it was like I had to climb out this, this huge pit before I could start doing anything, and that was overwhelming. So I really understand the struggle there. And I don't know how old the child is either. Often it's what is going on with the depression? Where has that come from? What's it in relation to? And quite often it's either they've been pushed down by something, so they feel oppressed by the experiences, or they need like a deep rest. So it's deep rest and pushed down, or deep rest to recover from a time that's really drained them. And that's one way of understanding a little bit about depression. And if they're sad about something, then the Bible says mourn with those who mourn. And when children or anyone is sad, people coming, listening to their story, comforting their story, being willing to listen to it over and over again if necessary, is what starts to bring some healing. So it kind of depends on where this depression is coming from. Is it pure depression? Is there something physical going on too? So it's not so easy to answer directly. There's lots of things I don't know there, but I'm just sharing some things that I'm aware of. There's a really good website called handsonscotland.co.uk. I'll put it in the chat. And it's actually when I worked for Hands on Scotland that I learned about this material, handsonscotland.co.uk. And it's one of the best ones I know for helping children. It was designed to help people help children with their mental health. And it has ideas for flourishing on there, including emotional balance and lots of ways to help children. So if you have a problem with depression, bedwetting, self-harming, all these sorts of things, aggression, it has ideas for all of those things based on research, very simple, good things to help you get started. So if you have questions that I can't answer, I would say go there and have a really good look. There's masses on that website to help you, and also to help children with depression as well. So you can go and find some more things from there.
Thank you. I have another question. Someone's interested in play therapy and children's counselling. Do you know of any training or workshops or any other information, please?
Yes, there is. There's a very good child psychotherapist called Margot Sunderland or Sutherland. Anyway, try both of those. She's a brilliant play therapist and child psychotherapist. She does training courses. She runs an organization in London that does the training. She has written a lot of really helpful books, and books that help children through different crises. She's written like a children's story book, and then help for the parent or carer with lots of ideas how to work with a child in that. So if you go online and look for her books, they can get them on Amazon, and they've got this children's story and the adult guidance book that's really helpful. They're really good. So really just Google. I'm a bit out of touch with what's going on down here in terms of play therapy at the moment, but Margot Sunderland is excellent. I thoroughly recommend what she does. She's very gifted. She's also like an art therapist, a drama therapist, a play therapist, and a psychologist all rolled into one. So she has lots to offer.
Okay. And thank you, Karen. And can you recommend any parenting classes, particularly for young parents? And is there anything online?
Yes, there is. Well, I could say try the book, 52 Ways to Parent Happy Children. That will give you a lot of information if you just want a book. Care for the Family is a Christian organization, and they do parent talk, and they're brilliant. When I do parenting classes, I usually use their material. There's parent talk primary years and parent talk teenagers. And if you go to their website, you can choose that and go as if you're going to check out to buy it. Keep scrolling down and it will say you can have access to this online. You give us your details here. You can tell us where you're going to watch it. You can share it with a group, and it will give you the video clips and the resources. I really like what they do. I'm very impressed. They do things like presenting a family problem, and then they get the parents who are in the group to discuss like how they would solve it. So you would do that yourself, how you would solve the problem, what you would do. And then the experts speak, and you see often how much the parents know the right things, and the experts confirm that, and that really encourages the parents' confidence. They're also funny, creative, really good information. So it's parent talk. It's like parent, I think with a capital T in the middle and all one word, and it's care for the family. And I know personally the people who've done that stuff, and I really, really like it. So I would recommend that, because you can watch it in your own time, you can share it with a group. If you purchase it, it's like only £30 or something. It's not expensive. And so I would recommend something like that. It's a nice workbook, really simple points that you can easily do. Thank you for looking at Margot Sunderland, Carol Scarlett. Yes, Dan Siegel is also very good. Dan Siegel is a famous psychologist in America who does a lot of stuff about well-being and how the brain works, and working with teenagers as well. Yes, it's recorded. I'm just going through some of these. The question about chronic fatigue needs to be answered offline, probably. You can email me, because it's long and complicated, and I'm not actually, I don't know too much about what's happening at the moment. td.adventist.org, because it's been 20 years since I experienced that. So I think, oh, it should be adventist.org, not Adventist, sorry. So if you need to ask me something, I'm happy to take some questions by email. Was there anything else, Judy?
Down,
my scrolls just stopped working.
When a child is frustrated with his work. I don't know if we've covered some of that.
That's an important one, when a child gets frustrated with his work. That quite often happens. I don't know the full story. Again, I would prefer to be able to find out exactly what's going on. But often when a child is frustrated with their work, they feel like it's not good enough. And that's where encouraging effort is important. When they often get frustrated and reject their work, or even tear it up, when they have somehow got some perfectionist thinking, that they're not good enough, it's not as good as the next child. Somewhere they've learned about perfection, and it's helping them to sit comfortably with a bit of imperfection, and to think what they can do about the imperfection. And sometimes the frustration is because they haven't yet developed the physical skills to do what they want to do. They can have a really amazing picture in their head of what they want to achieve. And I know what that's like too. You know, I can have a great idea in my head, but actually, you know, the execution of the task can be much harder. And so sometimes the child is frustrated because their body hasn't really caught up with their imagination. And maybe they need to go to a slightly lower level and then build up again, so they can get confidence in doing things well at a simpler level, and then build back up again when they develop the skills and the confidence. Give them lots of support. Sometimes there's something else sad going on in their life, and this is just evidence and outworking of something they're not feeling good about inside, about themselves, fear or social concern, or fear of school phobia. So it's important to know what else is happening in their life that might be making that hard. The chat is completely frozen for me. So, oh, here we go again. Yeah.
Just scrolling through.
Yes, and someone about homeschooling. Yes, these things are really good tips when you're homeschooling, because you can weave the positive emotions into their day. Once you know what they are, you can have little moments of doing this throughout the day, because it doesn't take very long to just have a brain break for 10 minutes, an hour, and go, okay, we're going to do gratitude for 10 minutes. So we're going to do go outside and find something of wonder for 10 minutes. So we're going to run around the house and find something that expresses God's love to us. So you can kind of weave them into your life quite easily. Year 9 at school, struggling with social emotions at school. Yes. Does not relate to her peers. Some children just actually, if they relate to year 8s and 7s, sometimes that's just where they need to be for a while. Like, again, it's that not forcing them to relate to the peers of their same age just because they're in the same class. Of course, that would be nice. But if that's difficult, then it's good to sort of take a step back until they build up the skills or the confidence or whatever it is that they need. And I think this is a really difficult time for social emotions at school when they've been away from their peers for so long. There may be help on Hands On Scotland for helping with that area as well, social emotions. And sometimes there's some good books to help teenagers with their emotions, and resources on the internet to help them with their social relationships. So look and see what there is there. I can't think of anything quickly offhand, but I know there's some good stuff out there on that area. Someone's asked about, shy child to open up and talk more outside of the home. Yeah, okay, so I was a really shy child, and people tried to force me to talk outside the home, and it freaked me out. Then I had a shy child, and my husband's very extrovert, and he would encourage him to speak outside the home, and it freaked him out. And I said, don't, just leave him be, let him do it at his pace. I think that's important. We would like them to go and talk to their relatives and people outside the home, but it can be really scary. And so it's good to have them speak to someone that's maybe comes into the home where they feel more confident and they can do that, and then let them build up. Clearly I can talk to people now, and I think let them do it in their comfort zone, not what we want them to do. And it's easy to push them to go and do things which are they're not really quite ready for yet. So I would be slow down and just be relaxed about it, and don't push too hard, because when people push me too hard, I just like, okay, I'm not even going out the house. So just being aware of how it can feel for the child, because it can be extremely terrifying.
Here's a really good one. If you've Karen, as it's the terrible twos. What's the best way to handle tantrums out in public with toddlers, especially in supermarkets? I'm sure we can all relate to this.
Yes, I did talk. I think I talked about this last time, but if you want to know a little bit more, I spoke about this last time, and the video should be somewhere where Judy will know. Yeah. So tantrums, what I talked about last time is that there are different kinds of tantrums, and there are tantrums which are sensory overload. And many of the times that I see tantrums in public, the child is in sensory overload, because when I had chronic fatigue syndrome, the most sensory overloading place we ever went was Tesco's. And I could hardly tolerate going to a supermarket when I had chronic fatigue syndrome. And if I was a toddler, I would have had a tantrum in the middle of the supermarket, because there is so much going on, so much sound, visual things. It's confusing. The parent isn't giving them eye contact, and it's just overwhelming. And a lot of it is about eye contact too. They're not got face to face. They're with you, but they haven't got your attention. You're whizzing them around like the shop. And it's actually quite difficult. So what I would say is, what kind of tantrum are they having? If it's an I want the chocolate tantrum, then you don't give in, because once you do, you'll get that every time. If it's a I want your attention, you may just have to stop for a bit and not rush around the supermarket, not trying to do big shops all in one go with a toddler, break it into smaller visits, get the stuff delivered, whatever it takes. But just do shorter trips and make sure you're engaging with your toddler a lot while you're shopping, finding fun things to talk about, and making it a together time, not a time when they're with you, but you're not really with them, you're not paying attention. And if they have the sensory overload tantrum, which many more children are getting these days, the senses get overwhelmed by information. And as an adult, we can like screen some of that information, but children can't. It all comes at them, and it's just actually quite horrific. The overload is appalling, and they just need to go somewhere quiet with you, be wrapped in a blanket, or just be hugged and go somewhere quiet and calm and reassuring until they can settle down. So it's really important to know what kind of tantrum are you handling, because if they're having a sensory overload tantrum and you yell at them, you're just going to really make it much harder. Or if they're they want positive attention from you and some care and just feeling close to you, again, if you tell them off, that's going to make it worse. So it's understanding. What my daughter when her children had tantrums, which were the kind of I want tantrum, she would say, you know what, I really can't hear what you're saying when you talk like that. So when you calm down and talk to me in your big girl or big boy voice, then I will listen to what you have to say. And she'll be very clear, like, I know that you want lots of things. I know that you'd like this, but we just can't have everything. And so I'm afraid this time, this is not something you can have. But to acknowledge their desire, say, I know you want this. I know how important it is to you, but we can't buy everything, and we can't do all of this. And we need to be, we can't do this right now. And then comfort their sadness.
Aaron, something, if you could say something about suggestions how to motivate a child to be more attentive to detail. It's here as homework or playing music, but also if you could take at the same time the biting child, a 9-year-old who bites when he's angry.
Right. My goodness, there's lots here, isn't there? I would say with the biting one, do go to Hands on Scotland. There may be some suggestions around there. It's, I think, help an angry child to talk more about what's going on, and listen to them, help them to calm. Quite often when there's aggression, it's because there's something they want to say that, or they can't really express themselves fully. And so they just do whatever they can do with what they have. And if you put an arm near them and they can bite, then they will just do that, because they just actually lose control when they get so frustrated. Now, I used to bite my brother, but I was a tiny little, like when I was 2 or 3, I used to bite my baby brother, and my mum actually nibbled me. So she didn't bite me with teeth, but she kind of put her lips around, and I had a little pretend soft nibble of my hand, and evidently I never did it again. But I think a 9-year-old might not work. That might not work with them. Let me see. The previous webinar and slides by email, I have to send them by WeTransfer. Take my email, and I think some of them are online. But take my email, but remember there should be an Adventist T in it, and I did a typo. How to motivate a child to be more attentive to details. It's hard. Again, I don't know the age, I don't know what's going on, but quite often we rush around in life, and our children just learn to rush and not pay attention to details too. And it's about helping them to slow down a bit, and to give them lots of positive feedback when they do pay attention to details, to do things in small chunks rather than big chunks, and there's lots of different things you can do to help them pay more attention. It's really important to pay attention, because if they don't pay attention, they actually don't learn as well. And that's what I learned from being an occupational therapist with people with brain injuries, that they couldn't remember things if they hadn't paid attention in the first place. So slowing down and paying attention helps the material to go into the brain in the first place. So it's help them to slow, to not rush, to do things alongside them, really. Sometimes they will be slower if we're there with them and they have time, one-to-one time with us, and they have our attention. So find out when he can pay attention to detail and see what's going on. That's a good tip. So when children don't do things you want them to do, when do they do what you want, or as near as what you want? What's going on then? See what helps them to do that, and then do more of the things that help them do it at their best.
I'm here with a worried teenager with no real reasons to be. Is there something hidden that I should look for? Please advise.
Who knows? I mean, a lot of teenagers now are highly worried with no non-specific worry. And I think a lot of us have non-specific worry at the moment, just because we've lived with so much pandemic stress for so long. I think it's talk, listen, be open, check in, do the emotional pie, and then think about, when are you most likely to be worried, or what do I do that helps you? When are you less likely to be worried? What goes on when you're not worried? And how can we do more of that? There's so many questions here.
What about the child who bites their nails when at school and at church when they're stressed? That's quite a common one. I know mine.
It is, I think, and again, Hands on Scotland will probably have something for that. I'm not a good person to ask. I bit my nails till I was 9. I sucked my thumb till I was 9, actually, as well. And then I flew to Canada on my own, and I thought, if I can fly to Canada on my own, I can stop doing these things, and I did. So you can't fly to Canada right now. I think biting nails, I think deal with the stress. What else can you do to calm them? Look at some of the calming tips that I shared. I wrote an article called Chilled once, and I might be able to share that with you, Judy, it was in Life Info, and it had a list of things that you can do in a family to help people calm naturally. I think give them other things to do with their hands. And I think the more we make a fuss about something, sometimes we make them feel worse about it. And then because they feel worse, they feel stressed and they do it all the more. So it's being supportive without being too critical, because sometimes that can just make them feel more insecure and then more likely to do it. So it becomes a vicious circle.
I think, Carol, on that one too, it's not uncommon with children who are very bright intellectually, but it's that sense of vulnerability they feel, particularly if they're surrounded by children. There's the sort of covert bullying potentially, or they just feel no matter, they know they're good, but they just don't feel supported maybe by peer group.
And I think help them to find things that calm them, that they can do with their hands. Fiddle toys, rubbing cream into their hands, find things that will just soothe their anxiety that aren't actually biting their nails, and help them to try out a range of those different things. There's some messages that have come private, and they're really
need to take those offline.
They're quite complex actually, and I'm not sure I can't really deal with them probably here too. I think one thing is talking about when children ask you something and you have to say no. It's really important to say, I know you would really like an ice cream. I know that'd be a really lovely thing to have right now. So when we have a warm response to them and say, I know that you really want this, and I know that would be you'd really love that. But actually in life, we can't always have what we want, and that's really sad. And this is one of those times, and give them a big cuddle. When we say no a lot, they can just feel quite hurt because they don't feel we really understood what they need. And sometimes when they're asking for things, what they really need is us. And so by giving a harsh response, they can feel even more distant from us. Whereas if we give a warm response, I know you want that. I know that would be really lovely right now. I fancy an ice cream as well, but we can't do this all the time. It's not really very healthy for us to. So, but you kind of have a warm response to their desires, and don't just say an outright no. There's so much. There's so much here, and I can't see everything. I'll have to try and save the chat.
Yeah. In particular, the private ones, or maybe they can email you and you can.
Yes. Anyway, to find the root of their emotions.
I think those you must be receiving privately now.
I am getting quite a few here. Someone was asking about how do you find the root of their emotions? It depends what's going on, why you feel you need to find the root. Sometimes it's helpful. Sometimes it's almost impossible to know. It's very complex how we experience emotion. It's not just often one particular thing. It can be things that neither you nor the child knows about, things that happened to them when you weren't around, that led to fears and worries. And our emotions come from a very complex source. So the emotional pie is one just to help know what's going on now and what can we do about this now, and that can be the helpful thing. The other thing is to think, when did this start? So that's something I always ask parents. If there's a child has a behavioral issue or whatever, when did it start? What was going on in the family at the time? And can that give us some clues as to what was going on then that might be residual now? Many problems in children and families are good solutions to something that happened, that is then we apply that solution into the future when we really need to let it go. So they're solutions that have lasted too long. And so by finding when they started, we can help us to realize, okay, that worked for back then, but now we can do this instead. Now this would be more helpful. So I don't know whether that fully answers, but it's hard to get to the root of emotions, but start where you first noticed them and think what was going on then that might have triggered them and their behavior. And a lot of children's behavior that we find challenging comes from the more negative emotions inside them that fuel the behavior. And the more we can help them engage with positive emotions, it helps to deal with that stuff that's in there, and also comforting them for their negative emotions. Being a comforting, safe, secure, calming parent can help them to diffuse those things and help them to be comforted and reduced.
And I think the last question we'll take, any suggestions as how to teach brothers to play calmly and respect each other's other feelings? Yes, sibling abuse is something that's quite prevalent.
Yes. The one tip that I've heard recently that I wish I knew when my kids were little is to, if one does something that upsets the other, they have to do something kind for them. And that can help. 9 and 2 is a difficult age gap. 2-year-olds knock down 9-year-olds Lego and things like that. It's just going to happen. I'd probably get them to play separately a bit, or have a safe place where the 9-year-old can keep the things that they don't want the 2-year-old to smash up. And just to talk about feelings a bit more. The thing is, a 2-year-old can't really say what they're feeling. The more that the children can learn a feeling vocabulary, the easier it is for them to talk about each other's feelings and say, when you did that made me feel this. It's not easy, but trying to get them to do kind things for each other is helpful. And often they need our attention. Often when children are not playing well together, it's because they actually want our attention. And when they get into a fight, we go and give them lots of attention. So give them attention when they are behaving well, so that they don't have to play up with each other to get your attention, because that's often what's going on. And that pertains to the seminar I did last week about managing children's behavior.
Yes.
Well, there was one about lying that I saw.
Okay.
And
privately.
Sorry?
That must have come to you privately. I can't see it here.
I think lying is a problem with many children, so I'll talk about that. So again, I talked a little bit about this last time, that sometimes we have actually taught our children to lie, because when they tell the truth, we go mad, and so they go, oh, I'm not going to do that again. So I'll just make up a story next time because it's safe. So we need to realize that we have often encouraged our children to not tell us the truth. We need to, when they do tell us the truth, to be as appreciative and encouraging and say, thank you. I know that was really difficult to do. Really appreciate that you told the truth. Now let's fix it together. When we get really anxious about the fact that they're lying, and we respond and get very cross, then that can make it go underground and make it worse. And so we just need to be aware of what effect is my behavior having on the child's behavior, because it often has, I've learned as a parent that it often has more effect on their behavior than I would like to think that it does. So by doing some simple things, we can actually encourage them to behave in better ways. Some lying storytelling is like normal. We need to understand that for some children, when what they're telling us is what they think, what they imagine, what they believe, would like to believe, and they're not intentionally lying to us. So we need to differentiate between what is their imagination and their hope, and what is an actual lying about things. But by being warm and positive when they do come and tell us the truth, that can be really helpful. Seeing if there's anything else. I would say that if you messaged me, if you sent me a direct message that I can't deal with here, and I haven't dealt with it in some other way, please just email me, and I will try and address things in an email. Okay. Just going through if there's anything else. There were some things that were way back at the beginning, and okay. Okay, I think we've covered most things there. Are there any other questions?
Thank you so much. I'm conscious we've slightly over our time, but it's been very, very helpful. So Karen, thank you again for, I think, highly informative. All the adjectives are there in the chat to describe how enormously helpful everyone has found this. I think we learn something new every time. And how many times do we have to now go back and apologize to our children if they're grown up? But maybe look forward to grandchildren, great-grandchildren giving a steer. But
yes, I wish I'd known this for my kids, but little I have grandchildren now, and I didn't have all this wisdom back then.
No, it's been absolutely fantastic. So thank you. And I'm going to ask you to close us out in prayer, please. And thank you for everyone who registered and attended. Thank you.
Father God, we thank you that you've made us with emotions so that we can relate together as humans in relationships. And they give us so much richness in our life. Even here with the ups and the downs, the negative emotions and the positive emotions, we thank you that they give us this rich texture, that we can relate together, that we can experience the challenges here, but also experience the many joys you have put into the world. I pray for each person here today, that they will experience positive emotions this evening, something that will bring joy to their heart, even something very small, and that they may also share that joy with others around them and help their children to engage with positive emotions and to experience more of them in some of these very simple ways. So pray that you will guide us, that you will uplift us and strengthen us through these ups and downs we face in our life. And we know that you are with us through all of this, and your love for us does not change. It is completely constant and overwhelming. Even though our feelings go up and down, you are there steady and constant. And we thank you for this incredible love, which inspires us as we love your children with you. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, and God bless. And we'll look out for future programs later on in the year. What we have now is preparing for the Easter program next week, Journey to the Cross, and then end of May, early June, virtual camp meeting, which is about wilderness escape as Moses took the children out of Egypt. Heading for the promised land. And then we have Vacation Bible School in July. So do look out for our programs. Thank you very much for attending. May God bless you all. Bye. And thank you for the work you do with children.
Thank you. God bless you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you,
Thank
Judy.
you.
And
Thank
God bless you both.
Well done. Bye bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.
I feel like right here, and it's on his way back.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you and bye bye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, and bye.
You're welcome. God bless. Bye.
Thank you. God bless.
God bless you too.
See
Bye-bye.
you later. Bye. See you tomorrow.
Bye.
Yeah.
Was this recorded?
Yes, it was. And we'll be uploading to YouTube.
Oh, bless.
Partially.
Thank you.
Oh, somebody unlinked it. Slowly going. Almost there, Karen. Single digits now.